Hi, I am Mystic, and let me tell you about Kumara. So, last year I left my career. I'd been in my career for 25 years. I was a designer. I had done everything from graphic design, motion graphics, animation, web design, and then later in my career I got into product design. I joined an early stage startup that I played a big role in growing to a household name. We got acquired for $1 billion with a B. I got named on over 100 patents. From there, I went on to join Tesla, where I led design for one of their organizations. I played a role in designing the Cybertruck. I did a bunch of other stuff there. And what it all led me to was the realization that I had been kind of giving away my value. I ended up leaving my career last year through a turn of events that was not entirely expected. And it ended up being the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because what it did was end up giving me my life back. I found my way back to myself. I found my way back to my music, which I've loved since I was a kid. I always dreamed of doing music with my life. I always dreamed of being a writer, being an artist, and doing all these things that I'm doing again now. You know, I had this dream years ago before I joined the tech world of building my own company and sort of like having an art studio in my office and a guitar so that I would like work on my business and paint when I wasn't in meetings. And it was a beautiful vision and I loved it. And I was sort of talked out of that vision through this idea that like, if you want to build a startup, you've got to work really hard. You got to get investors. You've got to do this, you got to do that. And I went down that road of how you're supposed to do a startup, how you're supposed to do business, how you're supposed to succeed. And what happened? It ended up burning me out. And it eventually, and burning out, kind of crashing and burning, everything kind of fell apart. And ultimately, it led me to the realization that there is something else. There is another way. And now I am building that business that I dreamt of years ago, where I work on my business and I play music and I spend time with my kids and my wife, and I write and I do things for me again. I am me again. You know, I kind of have come to see how in my career I was giving myself away. I was adapting myself to other people and, you know, trying to make bosses happy, trying to appease management, you know, always pushing to help the company, trusting that it was going to come back to me, that I would be rewarded. And, you know, like I said, I went through a $1 billion acquisition for a company that I played a significant role in helping build. And we ended up with a CEO who took off with over $100 million and, you know, left most of his employees who were really the ones who had done the work, cranking, you know, working hard after he took off. And, you know, it makes me a little sad to think about, but I'm glad it happened, because if I had gotten rich through that experience, I never would have learned what I now know, which is that you should never rely on anyone. You shouldn't rely on a company or a CEO or stock options to make you rich, because what often happens is this cycle of like, it's like a carrot on a stick, where you're just chasing these rewards that are promised that they're going to come at some point in the future, and just keep you running on a hamster wheel. Life is happening right now, and the best sort of life you can build and live is one where you're enjoying the rewards of it in the moment, day to day. You know, a life where it's not about working towards some future payoff, some possible potential future payoff, but for rewards that you experience and you live and you feel every day. And those are the kinds of rewards that are available to you once you get out of a career, once you decide to build something of your own. And so all of my work now is about helping people take their power back, helping people build businesses based on their inspiration and their passion and their drive and authenticity. In my 25 years of my design career, I worked with a lot of different companies. As a designer, you sort of get a unique vantage point on a company because you get to see how things are built, and you play a significant role in building them and creating all the marketing materials. I've done websites, and like I said, I built actual products. And so I got to see everything over the years, and it was an incredible masterclass in every aspect of how to grow a company, and in many ways, every aspect of what not to do when growing a company. And, I often thought about building my own company, and the main reason I didn't was I just had this idea that the person who leads a company is a different type of person than me. It's someone who's more confident, someone who has a particular type of network or a particular type of background. And, really what it came down to was a lack of confidence. And partly what that came out of was the experience of working under a lot of leaders in industries that I'd worked in, especially later in my career as I got into the tech industry, who were, I would say, very domineering, very overly alpha, kind of toxic masculinity, who drove this concept of hustle culture. And it was always an ethos, these people who were massively stressed out, constantly traveling, constantly appeasing their boards and their investors. And I always saw that, and I thought, that's not for me. That was my model of the type of person who ran a company and what it was like to run a company. Once I got out of the box, once I got out of the tech industry, and I came back to myself, and I started meeting a whole bunch of people who were doing other things, I realized that there's a whole world out there. There's a whole world of possibility. There's a whole universe that you don't see when you're in a job, when you're in a career. When you're in a career, it's almost like you have blinders on. And that was my experience where, I got to a director role, and it was like the only next path I could see was like senior director, then VP, and then maybe getting into the C-suite. And it was like, this is the whole trajectory. And like I said, it's like having blinders on. And then once you get out, like I did, you realize there's a whole world out there. There's a world of possibility, and there's an infinite number of ways to make a living. There's an infinite number of ways to build a company. And in my opinion, one of the best types of companies you can build nowadays is a one-person business. Using tools like leveraging AI, using the various products that are available to help you, you can build a business today by yourself. You can literally launch something in an afternoon. And it's really easier than it's ever been. And especially if you are someone who has had a successful career, or even if you haven't and you just had let's say a rich life journey where you've gained wisdom and experience and an understanding of human psychology through an understanding of yourself. If you have emotional intelligence, if you have spiritual insights, and you understand life. I think a lot of us feel like we have wisdom and we have gifts, and we are not delivering them in a way where they're valued in a way that confirms to us our value, if that makes sense. And so we tend to doubt our value, as I did for many years. I was delivering my gifts in a very confined way in my career. And it was inauthentic. It wasn't in alignment with who I really was. And part of me knew that, right? But it was also like later into my life. I was in my 40s and I was married with kids. And I was like, I want to do something else. I want to go play music and write and make art. But the thing is, I need to make a certain amount of money now. And while I could have lived that life in my 20s and maybe my 30s, now at this point, I got to be serious, and I've got to put my dreams aside until I retire, maybe. And that was kind of my thinking. And it's unfortunate because I know a lot of people think that way. And I thought that way for a long time And here's the truth. The truth is, if you want to make the most money, actually, if you want to not just live a life that's rewarding and engaging, but actually make the most money you can make, the best way to do that is to pursue your gifts. Like Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. Because guess what? If you follow your bliss, if you follow the things that you most love doing, especially if you're smart, especially if you have skills, and by the way, my programs are all about teaching you the skills you need. But if you follow your bliss, you will find your way to doing things that only you can do in a way that only you can do them, and in a way that brings value to the world in a unique way, in a compelling way. And the internet and social media create a world of possibility that weren't really available to us when some of us started our careers. And so if you're someone like me who's in midlife, it's a great time to sort of step away from convention, to step outside of the box that you've been in for a bunch of years and say, you know what? I'm going to take everything I've learned up until this point and I'm going to channel it into doing something for me. And it's one of the other things that stopped me for a long time is the idea that it's really hard, must be really hard to build your own business. Like, it's a lot of work. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's not, it is work. It's a lot of work to build your own business. It's a lot of work to do your own thing. But guess what? For me, it's the most rewarding work I've ever done in my life. And I think for most people, that's the way it is. Because when you're in a job, you're usually doing things based on how other people want you to do them in a way that aligns with what management wants, what your boss wants. You usually can't take too many risks. And you end up doing things in a way that, you kind of know there's another way, there's a better way. But a lot of the time in most jobs, you don't really get to tap your deepest intuition. And even if you do, you're maybe not doing the thing that you would most choose to focus on if you could do anything. But when you focus on the thing that you most want to spend your time doing, guess what? You're going to do it better than anything else. And you're going to spend every day getting better at it. And so what I do is I create spaces for people to engage in their life's work and to do work of deeper meaning, to tap into their passions, and to find a way to monetize it, to turn it into a business. Because we're all capable of that, and we all deserve that, and it's available to all of us. There's a few core skills that you need, though, to make this happen. And what I talk about a lot is there is product and there is marketing. And so marketing is all about your brand. What is the brand that you're creating, and how do you present yourself to the world? How do you clarify who you are in a way that makes you engaging to a potential audience? That's how you grow a following on social media. It's not about all these like hacky things that people sell about like viral content blueprints or any of that. If you've seen any of that stuff, none of these courses about like how to get 1,000 followers overnight. Like, yeah, you can go and you can use all these frameworks to get viral content, but they're not going to help you build something of meaning that's going to endure. So the key is to really understand branding. And understanding branding is about who you are at the deepest levels and how to really apply that to what you want to build in a way that magnetizes your audience to you. And the other piece is product development. And this is what I spent a lot of time on in my career. Understanding product development will help you turn your skills and your passions and your interests into something that's really valuable and that helps people and that people will compensate you for. So I offer a couple programs. My program, The Mystic Method, is for people who are ready to build something. You're ready to build a business. You've had the career, you've got the wisdom, you're ready to go. That's what The Mystic Method's for. I'm going to teach you, I'm going to help you build a world-class brand that's going to resonate with an audience and that's going to magnetize people that value you and who want to buy what you have to offer. So that's The Mystic Method. Now, Kumara is simply for people who are in the process of coming back onto their life path. Maybe like I said, you've had a long career and you're not yet tapped back into what it feels like to be you. You're still sort of finding your way back to what does it feel like to be in flow? What does it feel like to be in my body, my emotions? Maybe you've never even been there, right? So Kumara, it's all about helping you get into a state of flow. And it requires a lot of unlearning, because a lot of us learn bad habits in our career, and we learn to overwork, we learn to push when we should pause and listen. And Kumara is a lot about tapping into your intuition, something that a lot of us, including myself, lose touch with in our careers because we're not encouraged and empowered to listen to the deeper parts of yourself. So Kumara is about learning to listen to the deeper parts of yourself. It's about learning to discover what you want. So if you're not totally clear on what you want, but you want something else, Kumara is an excellent program for helping you reconnect with yourself and finding your way to what you want your life to actually look like, because you are the creator of your life. You are here to create whatever life you want. Whatever dream you have inside of you is possible. And I think for a lot of people who you feel like you don't know what you want, I think what I find is most people who say that simply don't believe that what they want is possible. So Kumara will give you permission to dream again. Kumara will inspire you and give you confidence and help you believe that what you've been dreaming of your whole life is actually possible. And it's guaranteed. So buy it, try it out. You have 7 days to see if it has this effect on you. And if it doesn't, I'll give you your money back. That's how confident I am in the program, based on the amazing experiences that people who have gone through it have had. And you can see some of the testimonials down below. So that's Kumara. And again, the Mystic method is for building. If you're ready to build, if you have an idea, if you know what you want to build, or even if you don't exactly know, but you're ready to build something to have a big impact on the world, the Mystic method is focused on skills. It'll teach you about marketing, sales, will help you learn how to make money through your passions. And then Kumara is about getting back into flow, getting to the point where you're ready to build again. When you're ready to do something based on who you are at the deepest levels. So I highly recommend doing Kumara before you do the Mystic method. And if you are ready to go for it, you can get Kumara included when you sign up for the Mystic method. I include Kumara for free because I want everyone who does the Mystic method to go through Kumara. So if you're not sure, sign up for Kumara. It's an inexpensive program. It will change the way that you approach life. Promise you. It will change the way you think about productivity. It will help you believe things are possible that you might not believe are possible. So I think that's about all I wanted to say here. You can email me if you have any questions. I'm always happy to chat with people who are interested in what I have to offer and just, might have some questions. My mission is to help people like you get back to authenticity and build from a place of purpose and meaning and create a life based on your deepest purpose, because that's what we're all here for. And I really believe that's how we create change in the world. And it's never been more important than it is right now for more people to do that. So thanks for being here. Thanks for watching this whole video. And I really hope to see you inside of one or both of my programs. Now let's play some guitar. In my eyes, indisposed, in disguises no one knows, hides the face, lies the snake, and a Sun in mine is gray. I'm still working on it. Black hole sun, won't you come and wash away the rain? Black hole sun, won't you come? Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside.